So again, today's is going to cover how to be a better tech consultant. Again, my name is Derris Boomer, and the company is boomertechnologygroup.com. I will cover the following topics in this course. There's the dilemma of being a consultant, things you should consider for questions about your company, what are you selling? I will go into that, how to price your services or your products for yourself, or more so for your services. How do you acquire your customers? I'll also cover the high difference between what is a W-2 employee versus 1099 versus a corp-to-corp. Lastly, I'll also cover contracts and insurance lightly, billing and cash flow, and the life cycle, and your time versus money paradox. Lastly, at the end of this presentation, I do have some things in the appendix that can be valuable for you guys going forward, and I'll kind of go into, again, to my story, how I became a consultant in the last decade, and how you can make more money. If you follow these best practices, I can tell you for a fact that you should see an uptick of at least 50K if you're following these resources that I have in the yellow section. And that's a fact. I've gone and tripled my income by following these different ways of being a better tech consultant in the last 7 years. And I can see that for a fact, not only myself, but also my colleagues. So first of all, what's the dilemma? For you guys who are on the phone, I'm guessing either you're already a tech consultant at this point in time, or perhaps you want to become one. So we're going to, again, cover how to go from step 1 through step 25. So again, if you're going to become a consultant, whether it be for technology or for some other industry going forward, you've got to decide to kind of answer these questions for yourself. First of all, who are you as a consultant? What is your background? And why would someone want to purchase some services from you as a person? What is your expertise? But more importantly, if you're an expert in your field, hopefully you can put a price to that expertise. So when I became a consultant about 10 years ago, I had worked from some previous companies for about a decade. And I had to decide, what am I going to offer for services? And then when do I want to work? Do I want to work 9 to 5 hours? Do I want to work 24/7 and be on call? Do I want to work weekends? So I had to decide my service offerings and also when am I available for my clients. I had to also answer the question of where would I provide these services for the client? Do I want to travel for the clients? Will I be remote? Will it be a combination of both? Lastly, how will I provide these services to the client? Will I have a laptop? Will they provide me a laptop? All those things for logistics, I have to figure that out for myself. The last part of this questioning and answer component about you being a consultant is the why. Why are you doing this? And what I mean by that is, if you're looking to get more money and control your destiny between now and retirement, that's a great answer. But if you're just looking to do this for money and you're not having a real love for becoming a consultant or running your own business, perhaps this is not the role for you to take on, right? And again, the why is as important as the how you're going to do this actual job going forward. Lastly, as you start your business and you're writing down what it is, how you're going to do it, all those good things, what is your 2-minute elevator pitch if you were to see someone in an elevator? Let's say you're going to some conference and you happen to be in some elevator with some executive. How do you explain to them what your business is in very few words, right? But very to the point and distinct so that there's no confusion. You want to make sure you can do that in a quick, fast manner. Again, back to selling and what are your services. As you go for your company as a consultant, you've got to decide, hey, I'm going to put in 2,000 hours a year, assuming that you're going to be taking vacation for 2 weeks a year. How are you going to charge your hours? What's your unit of measure? Are you going to be using an hourly rate? Is it a daily rate, a weekly rate? Is it a fixed rate that you're going to have for your business? You want to make sure you understand how you're going to get paid and how you're going to charge people. Does that make sense for the folks on the phone? Before I move on to about the next slide deck, are there any questions so far about selling your services, about how you're going to charge your services hourly or daily from anyone? You can use the chat as well. Hey, see, Ryan, you're saying you're having an issue hearing. Can you hear me now, Ryan? You can go in the chat and say yes or no. I'm going to move on to the next slide deck. For pricing, think about pricing in different tiers of pricing. So I use this as how I go about pricing, and I'll explain to you why I see all consulting for technology is in 3 tiers, and I'm going by the hourly rate what they're going to charge. I came from a company. Can you hear me? Hey, I'm going to ask you guys to go on mute if you're not talking actively. Tier number 1, I consider that to be, your top pricing on an hourly basis. And what do I mean by that? If you are working for a company such as an IBM or PwC, they're going to charge their clients the top amount of money. So their hourly rates are extremely high compared to myself. I'm on a lower tier than they are. So the tier 1 companies of the world, your Boston Consulting Groups, again, your IBMs, your Microsofts, they're charging their clients top rates. And, I consider that the tier 1 of pricing. On tier 2, that's usually going to be their partners. So, for example, I work in a software called Kronos, and Kronos has partners that you can pay them to be one of their partners. And their partners can't charge the exact same rates across the board for all services. In some capacities that they can, but for the most part, they're on a lower tier of pricing for their work, and they're tier 2. The third tier I would define as being these middleman companies that are not partners per se in this ecosystem. They may be folks like you guys on the phone who are independent consultants. So those are the folks where we're going to have that lowest tier of pricing. And for me, if you're not making at least $25 an hour US dollars, maybe this is not the job for you. So I put that as a minimum amount. For some people, that may be a high amount in their country if you're basing it upon US dollars. But going back to the pricing model, you want to understand your grade of work and why you're charging a certain amount. Of course, we all want to get the highest pricing, of course, but you've got to be able to add the quality and value to a client at your tier. So again, I can't necessarily at my current level of my company, I can't charge IBM rates. I can't charge PwC rates or Ernst & Young or Accenture rates at this point across the board. Maybe in certain instances, it's very rare. But if I have a direct client, I probably can, right? And if I'm trying to compete with a Robert Half or some other boutique company in tier 2 and tier 3, that's pretty competitive, and I can compete with those guys in that 75 to 150 range for pricing. And one thing to go on about this pricing conversation, when I go about my business, I price myself in 2 capacities. I charge the client a time and materials rate to doing the actual work. I base that upon a statement of work, meaning that if you see a job opening for some company as a temp, I tell my clients I'm not a temp, so you can give me a job description, but that's not really going to tell me what am I doing for you as a consultant. So what I like to do is say, look, I have a statement of work I require in writing as a contract with you, and I make sure that that statement of work is binding between me and the client. I charge them, again, a time and a materials rate of whatever. So, for example, if I'm going to do some remote work this month, I'll charge the client $100 an hour. If they were to come back and say, hey, we want you to come out to our location in California for 2 weeks, well, that time and materials rate, that does not include travel. So what I tell my clients is that I'll follow your travel policy for your company, meaning, oh, you can stay in this hotel, take this airline at a certain rate for the, for the room and for the flight and for the rental car, and they can reimburse me for the charges, but I never do an inclusive rate, meaning that my time and materials rate will be included in my travel rate. It's always separate. And the reason I do that is because you'd have to really sit there and figure out all your costs ahead of time. And you can't always price airline tickets today, 6 months from now. You can't always price airline tickets, a year from now. You can't even price hotels. You know the hotel ranges, but you don't know the true price is going to be until it's near that time frame. So if you keep your hourly rate, your time and materials rate separate from your travel rate, you'll never get burnt, meaning that you'll never be paying more out of your pocket for that service you're providing to the client. So that's the pricing conversation. If you have any questions, guys, everyone's on mute. Send me your questions in the chat box, and I'll reply to your question in the chat box. So again, as a consultant, there's 3 tiers. Again, going back to my example, if you're working for an IBM, they're going to have the top tier pricing for all of their consultants. If you're working as an IBM partner, you're going to probably be in tier 2 or in between 1 and 2 together. If you're some third-party company like a Robert Half or a Manpower Tech who's going to go out there and find consultants who are independent, they're going to probably, be pricing at tier 3, keeping in mind the middleman. And I'm going to cover the middleman in a few minutes. I don't see any questions in the chat box. I'm going to move on. One of the things you should think about for your questioning about your business as you go forward is how you're going to acquire your customers. Now, in my case, I have a small firm here in New Jersey for the last decade. I hire subcontractors. I don't have any employees besides myself, so I'm pretty lean and agile in my business model. Now, for marketing, I don't have like some giant billboard. I'm not putting ads in some trade magazines or newspapers. My marketing plan for my business is really that old school touch and play where I network a lot on a monthly basis in a non-COVID year. I go to a lot of conventions, but more importantly, I milk my network. So I use my LinkedIn, other social medias in some capacities, but I do some old school, my telephone book, and I reach out to people on a regular basis, and they'll know that, hey, Derris is a Kronos guy, or Derris is a Workday guy. And from my network of people that I have in my current network, I can find work. Conversely, I can also go out there and look for jobs on your LinkedIn's or your Indeeds and so forth. But that's how I kind of market my business in its current state. What's my sales plan? Well, for me, my long-term goal is to leave these middlemen alone so I can stop working for that Robert Half's or the Manpowers or the partners of Kronos or of IBM or of whoever. That's my long-term goal, to kind of start getting to a sales team or me myself doing more sales to get myself direct clients. But that's an avenue for me to do in the future from my current state. On the flip side, you can, again, networking, mailers, whatever the case. I'll tell you one thing that I don't do enough of, and that is I should definitely get prior clients to recommend me to their counterparts. And getting that return business from prior clients is the way to go as well. I see one question, and the question is, what if you're a consultant that works at a top-tier consulting firm but want to develop a rate for independent work? Well, I would say, going back to this 3-tiered model, I'm going to go back real quick. If you're at a top firm and you're trying to price what you're doing, if I were you, I'd try to figure out how much are they charging for my services, meaning that when I worked for Accenture, we had a price book, and it was based upon 3 concepts. What my role was in the company, number 1, what the role was for the rate of that project, and what's the role in the industry. So I'll give you an example. If I was an AWS engineer working for Accenture, they're going to price that person to all their clients at a certain rate, no matter who the client might be. But again, every client may have a different contract level of pricing. But for the most part, they know that an AWS engineer is going to get paid this much money. If you were to go to payscale.com, you can see, again, how much I'm going to get paid as an AWS engineer in this example in New York City versus Arizona versus Florida. So you can go and check the prices of rates that's out there. So that's one thing to think about. Lastly, once you know what they're charging for your services, you've now got to figure out how you're going to charge for yourself. So let's just say, for example, you're making $180K a year, and they're going to bill you out at $250 to someone. You probably can't bill yourself out at $250, but you could probably bill yourself out in that tier 2 space, that $75 to $150 rate. Does that make sense, Ryan? Give me a yes or no in the chat if that sounds good. But I can talk to you more about that offline if you need to. But I'm going to come back to it at the end, and I'll turn everyone's mute off at the end of the call. I mean, of this session, you can talk to me out loud. I'm going to move on to this next slide in regards to back to the middleman conversation. In the middleman conversation, they're going to get paid more because they own that client relationship, right? And they own that client in regards to the contractual paperwork. So back to my Manpower example, if I'm a consultant working for Manpower, and let's say they're going to pay me $75 an hour, they may bill me out at $180 an hour or $250. Sometimes I have no idea what they're going to bill me out for, but they own that client, right? They've got their own overhead of their marketing plan, how they're going to acquire a payroll team to pay all their people, the consultants. So they're going to take X amount of dollars out of this process for me. And I expect that, right? If I'm a tier 3 or tier 2 person, I'm going to find a middleman that's going to pay me money. That's just how it works. And I'm going to give you the scenario of why you may want to continue that if you become a consultant, you leave your W-2 lifestyle, having a nice pension or a 401k, and having a nice W-2 taxes being taken out, and going to becoming a 1099. And I'm going to cover this in some more detail. On the highest level of why would I want to be a W-2 employee, a pro and a con, there's two things to think about. If I were to go to a Robert Half or to a Manpower Tech, they'll say, hey, Derris, do you want to become a 1099 employee or W-2? Most times, if I say yes, W-2, they're going to pull out all my taxes and pay them on my behalf to the federal government and to the state government. But most times, they're going to charge more money and reduce my rate. So if I was going to get paid, back to my scenario, $75 an hour, they may say, oh, Derris, for W-2, we'll pay you $70 an hour. Or they may say, oh, we'll pay you $65 an hour. So they're going to be taking out an additional $10 an hour or $5 an hour just to give me a W-2 every week, you know, a paycheck. For some people, they don't care about that, and they take that deal day in and day out. But for me, I know for a fact, I have a payroll company called Gusto, where I can process my payroll for myself as a W-2 through my own S corporation for $35 a month. So $35 a month does not equate to $5 an hour for 12 months, right? I'm making a lot more money if I says, no, I don't want the W-2. I want to be 1099. I'll pay my own taxes. I'll get my own accounting. I'll get my own bookkeeper, and I want more money out of my pocket. So I don't take W-2s anymore. I'm an S corp, and I'm doing 1099s or corp to corp. So again, there's no bad answer here. You decide what you want to be as your business and whatever makes you happy. There's no bad or wrong answer. But as you go up go down the chain here, W-2 to a 1099 to a corp to corp, as you go down, you're going to get a higher hourly rate, but with that comes more responsibilities, more headaches. So on the highest level of trying to explain to people what's the difference, here goes the pros and cons. There's more to it. I've got some more notes for you guys if I send you guys my actual release notes on this. Does that make sense, Michelle? I mean, Michael Jenkins, you just asked about me to explain that with Gusto. Oh, so Gusto is a payroll company like ADP. I pay them $35 a month to say yes. When I get a check, I'll give you how I get paid. I'm going to go back to the previous slide. If I go back to my example, I'm making $75 an hour in this example with Manpower Tech. And they're going to say, Derris, we'll pay you each week $75 an hour. All right, so $75 times 40. They send me a check. In this scenario, I get that check for $75 an hour for 40 hours. I put it in my corporate account, and then I tell Gusto, hey, process this payroll check for me, and I want you to pay my taxes for federal, pay my taxes for state, take out my money from my 401k, put this money in this bank account. So my point to you is that Gusto is going to literally process all my payroll because I'm an S corp in this scenario, and at the end of the year, I'll get a W-2 form from my accountant. So I'm my own payroll, processing company using Gusto as an outsourcing company. So I could be either, back to the screen, I'm a W-2 on my own business, right? So I'm getting my taxes being processed on my behalf by Gusto. I'm not worrying about quarterly deposits to the state and the Fed. And there's more details to this than what I'm saying to you, Michael, but I've got some links at the end of this deck that will explain to you more on the site for Gusto. Okay. The last one here is corp-to-corp invoicing. So in my case, I'm now an S corp. I have my S corp registered in the state of Delaware. I pay my federal taxes as an individual. I have my taxes for my corporation. I have a bookkeeper. So with that in mind, I'm a full corporation just like an IBM, like an Accenture, like a whoever. Like they all get themselves incorporated in Delaware, so did I. I pay my corporate return. I pay my people, my people who I outsource to, and I'm a corp, and it has its own tax returns. And there's some pros and cons to being a corp and not being a corp. You can talk to your accountant or to your bookkeeper about that. You can go online and read about that in more detail. Again, there are no bad answers here. You decide what you want to be that makes your life comfortable and happy. I will tell you that in the last 4 years, Donald Trump made a lot of changes for corporations, and now that I'm an S-Corp, all those things that he did for big corporations, I can do the same thing as an S-Corp for the most part. So my accountant is like a happy camper, and so am I. I'm making more money as an S-Corp now than I ever made as a W-2 or a 1099. And again, talk to your accountant and get more details. I'm going to move on to your business insurance. This is a stickler for people because some folks don't realize how much money they're missing out on because they got to have some overhead. And here's my example. They have a term called CGL insurance, and it stands for Comprehensive General Liability Insurance, the first two bullet points in the top right corner here. Workman's comp insurance. In a nutshell, is if you get hurt on the job, physically speaking, that's going to cover, you being hurt on that job's physical building. Or if, let's say, I have an office that I work out of and I tripped on the staircase, I can put that under my workers' comp. There are more details to this. I'm not an insurance agent, so you can definitely Google this and get more details. But I pay every year to have workers' comp insurance for my business, that's an S-Corp. Liability insurance. It's a different type of insurance, and I'm just going to give you a quick breakdown. I do, again, have some notes for you guys I can send to you by email that'll go into more detail. But in a nutshell, it's insurance that, and let me make sure I'm saying this to you guys the right way, as I was told to it by my insurance guy to explain it to me. It's the insurance to kind of provide you any kind of a business risk for your company. So if something happens business-wise, you can have CGL insurance for anybody. It's not just for tech people. It's any kind of insurance. The third bullet point here that says errors and omissions insurance, that's more so for the tech people, also cyber liability insurance. The errors and omissions insurance is if something were to go wrong. So in my case, my company, I don't write the software. I am a project manager. I'm a change manager. In some capacities, if something were to really go wrong with a client and they were mad about something, they could sue me, and I could use my errors and omissions insurance to kind of cover that conversation about me being liable for something going wrong in their software, their business, because of my services. If you're a business owner, you can get your own insurance for that to kind of cover you as an owner if you were to die or something were to happen. It's not life insurance, it's a little bit different. Lastly, fidelity bonding. It's a form of insurance to protect the policyholders in case of a loss for some fraudulent acts of individuals. So in my case, if I get a subcontractor in my company that does something wrong, I can have this fidelity bonding to kind of cover me for some things going wrong with my consultants. I'll say this for you guys. Whatever you do, get your insurance. Don't be cheap. Get your insurance and be safe. I know some folks have gone bankrupt because they didn't have any insurance. Get your insurance. I know there's a company called Alcu that if you work for them, you're required to have all three of these: workman's comp, general liability, and errors and omissions insurance. And the rates for that, depending on your background, I guess, and your credit score and your business score, it can range between like $500,000 to like $3,000 a year, which is not a lot if you're thinking about making, 6 figures every year upon year. I'm going to move on to this general business information about your business that, like anything, if you're working as a contractor, you could be fired at any given time, or that they could stop that contract for any given reason. Or it could be COVID, right? COVID comes around a year ago, and now we're all unemployed for a few months when the client stops using your services. So at any rate, having that best practice of cash flow, how are you going to fund your business? In my case, I've been bootstrapping since day one. I don't have any corporate loans out there at this point in time. But at some point, I do want to grow my business, so I may go out and get a loan in some capacities to grow my business in the future. On the left side here of this deck, you can do different things to keep your cash flow going. One thing could be having some seed capital from someone, using your credit card for debt services, your savings account, having some money off to the side in case something goes wrong, a payday loan. you can go out there and get money earlier, and you'll pay some kind of a fee to get your money early from someone as a service. The last one here, I use this one a lot. It says invoice pay early discounts. What that means is that if I invoice my client each month for billable hours, on my invoice it says, hey, if you pay this invoice prior to 30 days, I'll give you a 2% discount. Now, some people will say, well, I don't want to make less money. Well, think about this way. I'd rather get a discount today than get nothing for the next 6 months. Or it takes them 45 days to pay me. So I don't have an issue giving someone a discount if they're going to pay me quicker. Speaking of getting paid, a lot of companies nowadays, they want you to have a net 30, which means I will bill them for services today, but I won't be paid until 30 days from now. If I were you guys, don't go beyond 45 days. It's a net 45. Some companies out here will come out and try to give you a net 90, which is ridiculous. You're going to get paid for 90 days. So I would say don't go beyond 45 days to get paid from any client, no matter how big they are, government-wise or private industry. Before I move on off this topic here, any questions so far from anybody in the chat box? Okay, if not, I'm going to move on. This is a quick visual to kind of think about your business. So you're going to market yourself and get you some kind of a contract. You've got some kind of a sales cycle, and you're going to, interview with a client and try to get in the door and acquire a statement of work or a signed contract to get paid and do work for the client. Once you get that contract and now you're working for them, it's going to have an expiration date. Is it a 6-month contract, a 12-month contract, 18 months, whatever the case might be? What you want to do is make sure that, again, you're going to bill that client as a net 15 days or net 30 days if you can. But as a business owner, you're going to have to actually do these tasks every single year, right? I've got to go out there and market myself. I've got a sales cycle on how to get more clients to be, for my services. I've got to go out there and get the statement of work. I've got to have it reviewed by my lawyer or reviewed by somebody who's like a pretty smart person with contracts. I've got to get my billing correct, right? If I'm going to bill my clients each month, how am I going to go about that conversation? So for me right now, I use QuickBooks. You can bill in QuickBooks and send someone an invoice electronically or by mail. You can also connect to QuickBooks your bank account, your credit card. So I now take payments from my invoices by credit card through my clients. I'll pay whatever the fee is because a lot of clients may be backed up with their accounts or their money. So a credit card option is a great option to give your clients, as an example. So again, this is your life cycle as a consultant, and again, you've got to figure out how much time do you want to spend on each of these actual tasks, as far as billing, sales, as far as contract reviews. All these things are part of your business, and if you don't want to do it yourself, it could be outsourced to someone else at a price. Here's the thing to think about for you guys as you try to grow your business. Time is money, money is time, right? So if you're going to, put in 85 hours a week working for 2 different accounts each week, do you want to put in 10 more hours to chase someone's invoice? Or do you want to put in 24 more hours to do whatever task you need to do for your business? And you have to decide for yourself how to balance yourself, right? Do I want to chase 25 accounts that gives me part-time money? Or do I want to chase 2 accounts that gives me full-time money? But you've got to figure out that time-money paradigm for yourself. I will say this to you guys. In the last 10 years, I've learned something new every year in my business, what I've done wrong, what I've done correct. And I will tell you that part-time money gets part-time attention. I could have 4 or 5 accounts, but if one account's just part-time and not really making me a lot of money, I should probably just drop that account and just focus on the accounts that are full-time money or more money per an hourly rate. As a business owner, you will find eventually that it's hard to say no to money. But sometimes, again, that part-time money is not worth your trouble. If you can focus your time on something to get more money, focus your time on more money. Lastly, you should outsource what you don't want to do. If you hate accounting, if you hate billing, outsource it. Again, I use Gusto. I have an accountant. I have a bookkeeper. I hate doing that crap. So I have it outsourced. It's an annual expense for my business. It's a write-off for me. It is what it is. Here goes the good part, and this is like just more of an appendix of things for you guys to think about for your business. You don't have to follow all of this. I have an actual book that I use that I've been reading for the last 4 years that I follow. But in a nutshell, when I began my business, these things I had to do from step 1 to step 25. So again, getting, what is my business, how to define my business, a business card, getting myself a tax ID number from the government, all these things I had to do eventually. It's not required from day one, no, but you should get all these things done to be a full-running business. So again, it's like a checklist for you guys for the future. I'm going to take you guys off mute and let you guys ask some questions out here. But let me see. Can you guys do me a favor and unmute yourself if you have a question?
Yeah, we have that capability.
Okay. Is there any questions so far that I missed? And it could be on any topic you want to cover at this point. This is just pretty much the end of the well, you know what? Is there a question right now from anyone?
Yes. Can you hear me? This is Ryan speaking.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Can you go back? You said you were going to revisit the topic about rate. Can you go back to that where if you're a consultant working at a top-tier firm, getting the top-tier rates when you work with clients and you want to do, when you're trying to figure out what you should charge your clients if you're doing independent work, how do you go about that? Is there like a fit fraction that you do of what you are being billed out as under your consulting firm in your day job, or is there some other formula that you use?
It's 3 things that I think I covered. I said that you should kind of figure out what are they going to bill for your job in your day job. So back to my example that if I'm a AWS engineer, right, then
so let's say, so I'll just give you a number. Let's say that you're getting billed out at $225.
So
and then, the question the reason I asked the question is that the top rate that you said the lower tier is $75. So I was wondering, like, say you're, even if it's even more, if you're working at a top tier firm and you getting billed at $225, $250, is that if you're doing independent work, is that $75 a max, or is there some other rule that you use?
So I'll give you my story. Maybe this will be a better answer. I left my day job with the 401k and all those luxuries and decided I could make more money hourly for one reason. I was working like 75 hours a week as a salaried employee. I did the math, and I was being underpaid like 45 grand in overtime. And I decided, to hell with this. If I can't be the CIO of the company, I'm going to get paid like a CIO. So I left to make a certain rate in my mind that would cover up all my bills and make me a happy person. And that's how I did my original billing. As I got better in my expertise, in my case, it's HR software, payroll software, yada, 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 I realized, okay, there's 3 tiers to this, and how do I get to the next tier? So for my case, I had to get certified to get to the next tier. So back to your answer, if you're being billed out at $225 from your employer, I would try to get, $50 less than that and then stay in that range as a start. If you can get $225, get the $225. Like, you can go to payscale.com, you can go to LinkedIn. They'll give you the rates by zip code, right, of what that charge is going to be. As a matter of fact, I gave you guys, there's a link here. I sent out to all my friends, there's a rate card from Robert Half. It says, Robert Half does an annual printout of all the different prices of salaries across the U.S. by zip code, by job titles. I'll send you the link for that. So at any rate, if you took that annual rate for an employee and divided it into 2,080 hours a year, right, then you'd have the rate for that job by zip code. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense, yeah. It makes a lot of sense.
But just think about it. It's a tier to this. So again, I can't go to my client and say I want $500. They're going to say, are you crazy? You're not IBM. So I know I can't get 500. Now, if I find some fool who'll give it to me, I'm not going to say no, but I know that I can't get the 500. I should be able to get around 150, 175 at the max in my current state of where I'm at as a consultant. Like, I know that for a fact from the industry. But that's for me trial and error, reading up on what's happening in the industry. When I was at Accenture, I had a chance to see the actual rate card one day. And when I got to see their rate card, it all made more sense. Is that clear?
Yeah, it's clear. And the reason why there's been, situations where, I see where I get billed at for my day job, but then when I go and do independent work, sometimes even though my skill set is such that I can demand, certain rates if I'm working, under a well-established consulting firm, a lot of times people would like to charge you, a lot less than that. So I was just wondering, that what you said, like $50 less than what you're being billed at, from a bigger firm. That's like a good starting point for me. So yeah, you gave me the answer that I needed.
Okay, yeah, and again, think about it this way. Negotiating is a hard skill set to have, and sometimes you may not mind taking the lower rate if you know. I'll tell you one more answer to this. If I get any call from a job today, I look at that job in three capacities. Number one, what's the statement of work, right? Because I know what it takes to do certain jobs, right? So what's the statement of work that I'm doing for you guys? In that statement of work, am I doing one job, two jobs, or three jobs? So, for example, I'm the project manager, I'm the trainer, I'm the tester, I'm the developer, I'm the report writer. If I'm doing like 5 jobs, I want 5 jobs of money, right? So I'm going to a higher rate. On the flip side of that, is this going to be a 2-week project? Is it 3 months? Is it 6 months? Is it 12 months? My goal is to be paid for 12 months a year. I don't want no 2-week job. I don't want no 3-month job. I want a 6 or 12-month job because I need the cash flow, right? So I'll knock my rate down for a longer rate. I mean, a longer term to be there, right? If it's going to be an 18-month project, I'll knock my rate down because who wants to be chasing money every 6 months as opposed to chasing money every 18 months, right? So I'm flexible on that regards. But back to the travel acumen, I do not put my price together for travel. If they're going to want me to travel to the location, they're going to pay that separate from my hourly rate. I never put them together on purpose because I'll get burnt, and I don't want to get burnt with that. Like when I was at Accenture, they know the price of what it costs for hotels and flying somewhere and for meals for every zip code in the whole planet. I don't know that information, and I don't have time to try to guess, okay, next year it's going to cost this much money for an air flight to, Arizona. Like, I don't know. So keep the rates separate. This way, if the price goes up and down for travel, they get burnt on that, not me, because they're going to just pay me whatever it's going to cost to get there, right? I don't want to get that confused with my hourly rate of getting paid for my time and materials.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Thanks.
Okay. Anyone else? I'm going to go to the appendix and give you guys some more jewels. So in the appendix here, back to being a smarter, more efficient consultant. Again, I use QuickBooks. I have a smartphone. I have a tablet. I use the G Suite from Google. They've got some great add-ons in the email stuff for Google as far as like tracking client conversations, things of that nature. I use Office 365. I use free conference call. You guys are on that right now. It's free. That's why I use it's cheap. I've got the cloud drive, the OneNotes. I use all these things. I have a corporate card. From an accounting perspective, I don't put my business stuff on my personal card. I try not to put personal stuff on my corporate card. They're separate to make my accountant happy. I use Slack. In regards to getting started, so for those of you guys who are on the phone, if you say, hey, Mr. Boomer, I have a job today. I want to get started on a small scale and outsource some of these headaches that I don't want to have. The best spot for you to go to is MBO Partners. They have an actual alliance with PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC, whereas you can go to them and say, hey, I want to become my own consultant with my own business. They will do all your paperwork for you. They will get you your tax ID number. They'll get you your insurance. They'll cut you your W-2. They'll get you medical stuff. They'll set all it up for you for a fee. And, you got to figure out with their fee perspective if they're worth the trouble for you to do it that way. But, again, if you want to have your own business but outsource everything, they'll do everything for you for a price. And the good part, again, is that they have an actual portal so you can actually you can bid on work for PricewaterhouseCoopers as your own business. So you're working for PricewaterhouseCoopers, but you're not an employee. You're your own business as one of their subcontractors. So anyone starting off from scratch who's not quite aware where they want to be, how they want to grow the business, I would say start here first. It's a great starting point for you to start at.
So I have a question for you when it relates to ROI.
Yep.
If you're in an area where your ability to demonstrate, how much they made off of your services, how do you deal with that issue?
Meaning, like, say it again. Like, you want me to? How do I feel when I know for a fact they're taking too much money out of my pocket? You mean?
No. So return on investment, just saying that I can save you some money, basically. How do you go about showing that? Do you have any advice on how to go about integrating that into your value proposition?
As far as trying to get a new client, you mean, from the client perspective?
Yeah, I think that's probably something that's relevant in client acquisition. If you're saying that, I can do this service for you and I could probably save you a couple $100,000, do you have a formal way of actually demonstrating and proving how much money you've saved them? I guess
I've never had that conversation. Usually, I'm certified in Workday and Kronos, and I've been doing a lot of iterations of that. So let me kind of back up for a minute. The value point of bringing me in versus somebody else, I'll tell a client, is that I have done this multiple times, and I have the value point of experience, right? And that I'm certified in this software package. So the value of me is that, hey, he knows the software, and he knows the business process for certain things. Like, I focus my sales on clients who are manufacturing clients, healthcare clients, and retail. So when I go in for the sales pitch, I just say those things about their industry, because now that they think to themselves, okay, you're one of us. You know retail, or no, you know manufacturing, and you know Kronos, for example. So that sells itself for me, and I don't have to do a lot of selling, because most times I'm going through a middleman anyway, and the middleman's going to get me in the door most of the times. But if I'm not going through a middleman, I'm going directly. My sales pitch is that, hey, I came from Accenture and from IBM. So I'm going to provide for you the same level of service, right, that top tier, but it's not going to be the top tier rate, right? But I don't ever mention the rate to people as a selling point, meaning that I'm not trying to be the Walmart of discounting my services. So if I go into the client and they're kind of crying about the price, I'm probably going to walk away from the deal, because I'm not here to get the lowest price. I don't sell myself for the lowest price. I sell myself as quality experience like an IBM, an Accenture, yada, yada, yada. Like, that's my sales pitch to them, and I know what I'm doing because of my background. So when they see the history of my background, that sells itself like trying to sell a Honda. They see the value already there. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. So back to these jewels. So MBO Partners, again, they have an actual portal for you guys. If you go to the PwC portal through these guys, it's free. So you can literally just sit there when you're at home watching TV, and you can just bid on work. You create a profile on there like LinkedIn. You see some job that you want to do, you bid on the work, and you submit your name to it, and you rate for it, and they'll call you and say yes or no, or they'll even send you an email. It's totally free. So if you don't want to be a part of MBO as far as, paying you your whatever, you can still go to their website tonight and register for free and bid on work for free. The next one is Catalent. They're just like MBO, free portal. You can go in here and put in your profile, your name, your bank account information, you can get paid, and they're going to take X amount of money out of your deal. So this is your middleman, but the cool part is they have all these Fortune 1000 companies that you can never get by yourself, but they're going to take out like 20% of your salary. So you just up your salary 20% and you're good in your proposal. And it's a free site again. You can sit at home again on the weekends when I'm watching TV. I'm just sitting there every weekend just putting in bids. So in the last 3 years, I've had 2 bids that I got and actually won. I worked for Budweiser for about a year off this website, and I also worked for another company. I don't think what it was. Another big name company. I can't think of what it was offhand, but this is a great site and it's free. Another free site, BTG Partners. This is the same idea. It's a portal. You put in your profile, your rate, your bank information in case they hire you, and that's your middleman. They get X amount of money off your invoices. Outsourcing. Again, I use Gusto. I could have used Paychex. I could have used ADP, but Gusto's a small firm out of San Fran, a startup. They do great work. I don't have any issues. I pay $35 a month. When I add on a consultant, they'll add on an additional $30 a month for that consultant. So my headaches of payroll is all gone. I can run payroll whenever I want to run payroll, whether it be weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. I love Gusto. I've been with them for about 4 or 5 years. Chetu, C-H-E-T-U, they're a developing company where if you need a developer for anything, if it's .NET, if it's AWS, whatever you need as a consultant that does development work in software, they can find you a body in 2 capacities. They can white label their employees to be your employees. So if I wanted to get a bid to the government tomorrow to do a new portal for the DMV, and they'll say, oh, you need to have 45 developers, I can go to Chetu and say, hey, I need 45 developers, and by the way, they work for me now. Okay, they're going to white label their people to work in my company, and I pay them for the actual resource. And the government doesn't even know that's not really my employee. It's actually Chetu's employee. It's between me and Chetu. They don't even know that that's my employee or their employee. And they're global. QuickBooks is QuickBooks. Online QuickBooks is great. Get you an accountant and a bookkeeper to do that for you. You're great. Easy Prep Tax Services is my accountant. He's here in New Jersey. He's a really sharp young guy. I love this guy. He's gotten me more money in the last 3 years than I had gotten the last 10 years from a previous accountant. Shebang they do web services. They also do web development for websites. So my website that I have for my company, it is just informational. You know, you can see that I'm a company and how to contact me. What do I sell? But he's a great developer. He can do whatever you need for your website as far as, you know, getting you more hits, getting you more marketing. Shebang does everything for you guys. Karu is my girl, Dawn. She's a consultant. She does payroll HR software such as Chronos. She does a bunch of companies like that as far as development and project management. PC LinkUp, my buddy Jerry. If you need anything as far as to outsource your infrastructure, whether it be AWS, whether it's VMware, if you need images for a certain thing. So, for example, I have a Chronos server on one of my laptops, and I said, Jerry, I want to put this server for development in the cloud. He took my image, he threw it in the cloud, and now I can turn it on and off whenever I want to on AWS. So whatever you need for like infrastructure stuff on servers, desktops, PCs, Jerry's the man. So these are my friends and my colleagues of companies, and from my perspective, they're highly recommended. The links,
excuse me.
Sure.
Yeah. A quick question about this slide. First, I'd like to thank you for the good information that you're giving. The Gusto, with that, like say, you know, in the nature, because you and I, we both do IT type, you know, consulting. So, like, you know, say you have a situation where you have a lot of expenses that you plan on writing off. When you use a site like a service like Gusto to pay yourself as a W-2 employee, do you base your salary off of what, you know, your profit is, or do you take the time to do that, or are you doing that, you know, once a quarter? Does that make sense?
I do it in the beginning. So, for example, if I said to myself, in 2021, I'm going to make $100 an hour on average for the entire year. So I'll put in Gusto, $100 an hour is my rate for Derris Boomer, right? So when I get that first check for that first invoice for $100 an hour, I could say it's $100 I received. I'm going to process $100 an hour. Or I could say, you know what, I got $100 from the client, but I'm going to pay myself $80 an hour, right, and keep some of that money in my corporate account. So you can do whatever makes you happy in your accountant where it makes sense. Like my accountant will say, hey, as an S corp, some years you want to make a lot of money and you want to see it on the W-2. But then sometimes maybe you don't want to see a lot of money in the W-2. You want to see all that money mostly in the company, and I'll give you a reason why. My brother just bought a house in the last 3 years. He's self-employed on Wall Street, and he didn't pay himself a lot of money on his W-2 on purpose. When you go buy his house, and they're like, well, you don't got the money. And he's like, well, I have a business, and the corporation's got all my money because I don't give myself a big salary. And they're like, well, that's the corporation, but you didn't get paid a lot of money. Because he didn't think to himself, oh yeah, I'm buying a house in 2 years. Let me up my W-2 money so I'm good, right? He didn't do that. On the flip side, I was paying myself a lot of money as a W-2, another example. And my accountant said, look, man, you're paying yourself a lot of money. And if you're not buying a house or something, he says, knock your salary down to 150, and all the extra money that you get each year above the 150 in a corporation, he says, you can cut yourself a bonus check in December to give yourself extra money, but it's already been paid for taxes on the corp. You don't got to pay it again as an individual on a W-2. So you make 150 a year, but you get a bonus each December of $25K, and it's all gravy, right? So those are two examples of how you want to play with that S-corp money versus W-2 money. But again, get you a good accountant who can explain this all to you, and you can figure out, you know, how you want to go about that conversation about getting paid and how you want to run your payroll.
Okay. Okay, two more questions, and I appreciate that information. Gusto, is that can you use them for, you may have answered this question, can you use them for bookkeeping as well?
I don't think they do bookkeeping, but they do. They give you whatever you get at any other company, meaning that if you want to take out money for your 401k, you can do that through them, for your benefits, for your vision. So they're a regular payroll company like ADP. So whatever you're doing today, if I want to have my account, split my check into 5 different bank accounts, they can do all that stuff without issue.
You have a person a recommendation for bookkeeping?
I do. My guy, Easy Prep, he does both. He's an accountant, and he also has bookkeeping. His name is Jay.
Okay. The last quick question, what broker do you use for insurance? Because I had a hard time finding a broker to do business insurance.
So I'm on Obamacare officially for the health insurance and the dental and the vision, and the rates are crazy. I've looked for other ways outside of Obamacare. I can't really get a lower rate, so that's how I'm doing it today for my business. I've been on Obamacare for a while.
Yeah, but I was talking about the business insurance.
Oh, for business insurance. I'm using. Oh my God, it's the company that has all the commercials on TV. What's the company about the khakis? Commercial. That's my insurance company for my business. State Farm. I couldn't think of the name.
Okay.
It's State Farm's my insurance.
You said khakis.
Yeah, the khaki commercial. That's who I use for my CGL, and I have there is an emissions insurance as well.
All right, thanks, man.
There's a book for you guys that I think it's a great book on here called The Business of Consulting, and she's got a website. Her name is Elaine Beich, and she's really, really good, this book. I use that book for my business. It's not tech-specific, but it helps you run your business better. So it's just that book for a fact. Again, subcontracting, it's a hot commodity. Again, it's a portal I gave you guys already about those 3 earlier. These companies always outsource to subcontractors. So if you can't find business, find you somebody who works at a KPMG or at Accenture or Deloitte and say, hey, who do I talk to about becoming a vendor or a subcontractor through your company? And depending on your background and your skill set, they're always hiring because they have a high number of people in their company leaving the company on a regular basis. So you could go in there as a subcontractor and work for them, you know, and get some pretty good accounts. And don't be afraid how small you are. Again, they take everybody. Like, if you're a business analyst, if you're a, QA tester, they have all those roles that they need, in the big 5 companies. Back to salaries. You were asking some good questions. There's Robert Half has a salary guide. So if you look at the top line here, it says CIO. The top CIO on average made $300,000 last year. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, wait a minute, the guy from General Motors made $300,000. No. This is not saying the top companies that you could think of, the Teslas of the world, the Walmarts, not those guys. These are the regular CIOs that are not these top-tier, multi-billion-dollar organizations. These are the regular CIOs that they query like the Fortune 5,000 companies, and the average CIO makes that much money a year. Isn't that kind of crazy? So the guy that works for IBM or works for United Airlines, that CIO is like a unicorn in comparison to most CIOs in the country. So my goal when I became a consultant was to say, I want to make $250 a year, if not more. Like, that was why I wanted to do it, because that's what I think I deserved. So my point to you guys is that check out that Robert Half salary guide, and it gives you a nice breakdown of the salaries by region in the U.S. each year. The link's on this document. And that's it, guys. That's my presentation. Any other open questions from anybody? You may be on mute.
Yeah, can we connect with you on LinkedIn?
Yeah, definitely. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. If I can send you guys, if you're on the Eventbrite site with your email, I'll send you this actual deck that has my notes. I've got a whole bunch of notes on this that you can't see here. It's on my notes page. So I will send you the actual notes version of this document.
I did have one question for you if I'm coming through. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you.
All right, perfect. I want to ask about, like, say if you're on a contract and you need some equipment, a new computer, additional computer, or another monitor, mouse, whatever it is, do you write that off or, like, bill that to yourself as an expense? Or do you bill that to your customer to say, hey, in order to get your job done, I need this piece of equipment?
Historically, I always just buy stuff like that every year and just write it off for the business, because I'm trying to get more and more write-offs every year. So I prefer to do it that way. You could do what you're saying and say, hey, this is to the client directly to be billed for it, and you get reimbursed for it. So you could do it either way. But for me, I'm trying to maximize all of my receipts for the year. So, you know, if I'm going out for whatever I'm buying, if it's like Microsoft license, if it's my license for my my G drive or my Apple, my cloud drive, I charge all that to the business. My cable modem in my house, I'm doing my work, I put that on the business. So I'm trying to maximize all my expenses.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? Other questions, comments, concerns?
I'd just like to make a comment. I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to share this wealth of information. This is some information I wish I would have known yesterday, but I'm glad, Lyndon told me about this workshop, and that I've been able to receive this information. So I just want to, give you some appreciation.
Oh, man, anytime, man. I've been in consulting for a while, and I was getting tired of seeing I'm the only black face on these airplanes in first class, and I'm like, I need to start spreading the wealth. And, yeah. I decided if I can do it annually just to give out some knowledge for free, I'll do so. So, I'm going to try to have a monthly, at least once or twice a month, for the year, somebody who's an expert in their field have, a similar thing, an hour spiel about whatever they're doing of value, whether that be, my buddy who does AWS stuff or whoever, and, just give it out to the folks for free.
Yes.
And how do we? Because I missed your intro, your name, and everything. What is your name? Because I didn't. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Derris Boomer. My business is called Boomer Technology Group. So I'm a consultant here in New Jersey. Yeah. So I'm in New Jersey, based in now in Princeton. But historically, I'm a Jersey guy. So all my contacts, my accountant, he's here in Jersey. We're all Jersey-based people for the most part. So yeah, I'm a techie guy for the last decade or so.
Okay, thank you.
And that's my website. So yeah, reach out to me on LinkedIn. There's only one Derris Boomer in the whole planet, so you can find me pretty easy. Anyone else have any other questions?
Yeah, I was just saying thanks for the info. I really appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, man. Thank you guys for coming out. I appreciate it. I see you on here, Ayrton. I appreciate it. My buddy from in Brazil's on. So, hey, Ayrton. I see Michelle's on. Hey, Michelle, one of my friends from back in the day at Tiffany and Company.
Thank you, Derris.
Yeah, you're welcome. So everybody on the phone, I'll send this deck out. And again, if you go to my blog, it is there also to download. In the notes section, I'll add the notes one to it, so you'll have all the notes that'll give you more detail to each slide.
Hey, thank you for sharing this, man. This was really, really helpful.
Hey, no problem. Hey, pass it on to your friends. That blog's going to be going on for the next couple of years, so forward to your friends and family. Let them know it's out there, free information.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, no more questions. I'm going to drop. If you guys have anything else, you can send me an email. Send it to me at sales@boomertechnologygroup.com, and I'll talk to you guys. You guys be good. Enjoy your evening.
Okay, take care, man.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.